TrueStory Vibes warmly welcomes all our beloved listeners. We're so glad to see you again in our familiar time slot.
Today,
TrueStory Vibes brings you a brand new story, one that we hope will touch your heart and stay with you. As you listen, feel free to leave a comment sharing the quote or moment that left the deepest impression on you. Wishing you a wonderful and meaningful listening experience. Seraphina eased her foot off the accelerator and craned her neck toward the windshield, squinting through the fine curtain of drizzle that turned Tybee Island into a blur. The late afternoon sky had already surrendered to slate-gray clouds, and the wind off the Atlantic slapped the driver's side door with a chill that seeped through the leather of her navy blue SUV. She tapped the steering wheel in frustration. Of all days for the engine light to flicker on, today her last meeting in Savannah wrapped up early, and she planned to surprise her team in Miami by flying straight there. Now, with her phone showing no service, she was stranded on State Route 80, halfway between a fishing pier and the deserted dunes. She sighed, then switched off the ignition. Silence enveloped her, except for the steady patter of rain on the roof and the distant cry of gulls. Outside, the road was slick, reflecting the pale glow of her brake lights like a neon runway. She reached for the glove compartment, rummaging for the small roadside assistance booklet she never thought she'd need. As she fumbled, a soft rap sounded at the window. Startled, Seraphina looked up just in time to see a figure in dark jeans and a charcoal gray windbreaker step back from the drizzle and rummage in the pocket of an old canvas tool bag. He raised a hand in what she only later realized was a polite wave. Rain droplets clung to the brim of his baseball cap, darkening the fabric. But his eyes, when they briefly met hers through the glass, were steady, curious, and kind. She cracked the window an inch. "Can I help you?" she called, voice muffled by the glass and the rain. "Your engine's been acting up," he said, nodding toward the hood. His accent was softly southern, with a casual drawl that suggested he was used to these backroads. "Mind if I take a look?" Seraphina's pulse quickened, partly from relief. "I'd appreciate it. I'm not sure what's wrong." She reached into her purse for her phone. No signal. "I called every garage in Savannah, but they're all booked up until tomorrow." He chuckled, low and warm. "Looks like your day's got an unscheduled extension. I'm Thatcher Hayes, mobile mechanic. I help folks get back on the road when the shops can't make time." She managed a shaky smile. "Seraphina Blake. Thanks for stopping." She slid out of the driver's seat and clicked her door shut. The metal latch sounded lonely, echoing between the dunes. Thatcher popped the hood with practiced ease, and Seraphina watched as he knelt beside the engine, tools in hand. His ragged canvas bag spilled over with wrenches, pliers, and screwdrivers, each one worn but cared for. He worked methodically, listening to the engine, tapping lines of tubing, lifting components to peer into hidden crevices. Every movement spoke of quiet expertise. Rain dripped onto their shoulders, but neither of them seemed to notice. Seraphina shifted her weight, breath clouding in front of her. She realized how tightly she'd been holding her own breath, waiting. After a few minutes, Thatcher straightened, brushing grease from his hands on a rag that had seen better days. "Looks like your ignition coil's waterlogged and the distributor cap's cracked. A quick replacement, and you'll be good to go, but it's too wet to handle parts out here." She frowned. "Is there a nearby parts store? I can wait if it fixes the car today." He shook his head. After 5 p.m., parts stores on this stretch are like sand dollars, hard to find and gone in a flash. "Best I can do is squeeze you in now with what I've got." He unzipped his tool bag and produced a small sealed pouch. "I keep an emergency coil and cap on hand for nights like this." Her relief was palpable. "Thank you, Thatcher." "Really?" He smiled, just a flicker of amusement in his eyes. "Consider it a freebie. You looked like you could use a break." He worked swiftly, twisting out the old parts, refitting the new ones, snapping wires back into place. The rhythmic click of his tools was reassuring, as if each turn restored a little more order to her day. Within 20 minutes, he climbed back up, wiping his hands on the rag. "All set. Try her out." Seraphina slid into the driver's seat, heart pounding with anticipation. She turned the key. The engine roared with renewed vigor. Its steady rumble a private symphony. Relief flooded her cheeks. She exhaled and looked across at Thatcher, who was gathering his tools, drizzle clinging to his jacket. "How much do I owe you?" she asked, voice bright as a bell. He paused, meeting her gaze. "Nothing. Just drive safe." His tone was gentle but firm, as though he meant it beyond courtesy. "Give me a call next time you're in Savannah, okay?" She nodded, warmed by the simple generosity of it. "I will. And thank you." As she closed the hood, Thatcher tipped his cap and stepped back into the rain, the dunes swallowing his figure. She watched until he faded, then climbed behind the wheel. As the SUV's headlights cut through the gray haze, she felt a spark of something new, hope, perhaps, or the exhilarating promise of an unexpected friendship. Carefully, she eased the SUV back onto the slick road. Before the dunes and ocean swallowed her path, she caught one last glimpse of Thatcher's silhouette by the roadside, a stranger turned savior in a rain-soaked chapter she would never forget. Seraphina drove the last few miles toward the Tybee Island Causeway with Thatcher's number stored in her phone. Each mile marker she passed felt like a heartbeat, reminding her that she had crossed from panic into curiosity. By the time she reached the quieter streets of Savannah, she settled on a rhythm, brake, turn, coast, allowing the residual thrill of rescue to carry her forward. Within an hour, she was back in her Miami hotel suite, the flickering lamp casting a soft glow over her desk strewn with marketing reports and travel itineraries. She made herself a cup of chamomile tea, sat at the window overlooking Biscayne Bay, and stared at her phone. No messages yet. She tapped out a single line. "Hi, Thatcher. It's Seraphina. Thanks again for your help today. Hope your night went smoothly." She hit send and almost immediately felt jittery anticipation. Would he reply? What would he say beyond the practical mechanics of engine coils? Before she could second-guess herself, the phone buzzed. "Hey, Seraphina. Glad to hear you made it back safe." Night was quieter, just me, my toolbox, and the hum of street lamps. "Let me know if you ever need anything else." She smiled, fingers hovering over the keypad. The ease of his tone suggested sincerity, not obligation. She typed, "I owe you a coffee or maybe lunch next time you're in Miami?" There was a pause, or so it felt, and then, "I'm in Miami tomorrow morning. There's a cafe on Lincoln Road called Driftwood Grind. 9 Uhr morgens." Seraphina's heart gave a soft thud. She tapped out. "See you then." The next morning, Seraphina arrived at Driftwood Grind 5 minutes early. The cafe's rustic wooden facade and salt-battered benches felt welcoming, as if it existed permanently on the edge of land and ocean. A pair of seagulls circled overhead in a clear blue sky, far removed from the rain-swept haze of Tybee Island. She wore a crisp white blouse and dark jeans, her hair loosely pulled back so it didn't hide the lingering smile on her face. Thatcher Hayes strode in at precisely 9 o'clock, waving once when he spotted her. He wore a charcoal-hooded pullover, jeans, and work boots, his tool bag replaced by a well-worn messenger bag. He looked more relaxed than yesterday, as if car troubles were always a creatively solved puzzle rather than an emergency. "Morning," he greeted, sliding onto the bench across from her. "Hope you like drip coffee." "Perfect," Seraphina said, reaching for her cup. The barista had already left one at the table, steaming gently. "Thank you for making the time." Thatcher shrugged. "I couldn't leave you stranded again. Engines are my business. Plus, the ocean has a way of reminding me why I do what I do." She nodded. "It's funny, when my SUV died, I was panicking over delays and cancellations. Then you showed up, calm and capable, and suddenly it felt manageable." He offered a half-smile. "That's the goal. I see problems, I fix them. Outside of work, I'm a bit of a hurricane survivor junkie. Tybee rainstorms, Florida hurricanes, you name it. Keeps life interesting." She laughed. "I'll keep you on speed dial, then. But tell me more about yourself. How long have you been doing mobile repairs?" He leaned back, tracing the rim of his coffee cup. Since my father taught me in his garage when I was 16. We were in a small-town shop in the Panhandle. He'd point, I'd wrench. I learned fast. By age 20, I was running solo gigs. Now I come to the customer instead of making them come to me. She studied his face, the calluses along his knuckles, the faint smudge of tool oil under a neatly trimmed fingernail. So, you must have seen it all. Dead batteries at midnight. Overheating belts on freeways, you name it. His chuckle was warm. Try overheating engines in Key West while a conga line streams past. Sold me my first margarita when I fixed an ATV. Good times. Seraphina felt the block of stress in her chest dissolve. Sharing coffee with Thatcher was like being on the other side of an entirely different story, one where engines whirred to life and human kindness prevailed. I want to hear about your best rescue story, she said. He took a slow sip of coffee, eyes brightening at the invitation. All right. There was a family of 4, 2 small kids. Grandma. In the middle of nowhere on 441. They'd run out of gas at dusk. No cell signal. I'd just finished lunch in a diner down the road, saw them flagging. Went back, towed them to a gas station. Offered them rides. Grandma insisted I stop by her place afterward for dinner. Got fed enough hush puppies and sweet tea to last me a week. She grinned. True hero. And no charge. Charge? For family reunion hush puppies? Never. Their laughter mingled with the cafe's background hum. Clinking coffee cups, light chatter, a barista calling out a to-go order. Despite their different worlds, Seraphina's corporate deadlines, Thatcher's grease-stained overalls, their stories fit around each other like interlocking gears. They fell into easy conversation. Seraphina described the challenges of global marketing, campaign launches, tight deadlines, client expectations, while Thatcher detailed the technical ballet of belts, pulleys, and spark plugs. He asked about her favorite campaign launches. She asked what model of transmission he found most satisfying to repair. 50 minutes in, Thatcher glanced at his watch. I should head out soon. The traffic on I-95 doesn't fix itself. Seraphina felt the first twinge of reluctance. I know I keep saying this, but truly, I'd love to return the favor. Engine acting up? Flat tire? He laughed. I'll put it on my gratitude ledger. But if you ever need a pickup at 100th and Collins, give me a shout. She pulled out her phone again, opening his contact card. Deal. And next time you pick the spot. He nodded with a grin. It's a date. As they stood to leave, the late morning sun finally broke through wispy clouds. Seraphina basked in the warmth, feeling that something foundational had shifted. What started as an emergency on a rain-swept island had blossomed into the promise of new friendship, maybe more. Thatcher waved, strolled toward his pickup truck parked curbside, and gave her one last nod. Seraphina watched him go. The echo of his footsteps a reminder that help and unexpected connections often appear when we least expect them. She tucked his number into memory and, with a final sip of now-cool coffee, set the course for her next adventure, Miami and whatever surprises Thatcher Hayes might bring. Seraphina Blake's rise through the ranks of Ocean Crest exports had been nothing short of meteoric. Fresh out of the University of Miami's marketing program at 22, she had impressed the executive team with a daring social media overhaul that doubled customer engagement in under 6 months. By 25, she was the company's youngest-ever director of marketing, entrusted with orchestrating multi-million-dollar campaigns across North America, Europe, and Asia. Yet for all her professional triumphs, her personal life remained a series of half-finished projects, like the bright red Ferrari she'd sold last year to fund a new strategy department, only for its spaces to remain half-empty when headcount cuts came in. It was Friday morning when she flew in from Atlanta to Miami's seaport headquarters, an ocean-facing glass tower that gleamed like a beacon over Biscayne Bay. Her calendar had 6 back-to-back items before lunch: a brand launch presentation, a conference call with a Tokyo office, a halfway-through quarter budget review, an urgent media brief catch-up, a headshot shoot for the new website, and perfectly squeezed in at 11:30, a private meeting with her father, Malcolm Blake. At 9 a.m. sharp, her team greeted her in the spacious marketing war room. The whiteboard walls were lined with mood boards, demographic projections, and campaign timelines. A life-sized cardboard cutout of a sun-bleached fisherman held a bag of Ocean Crest's flagship product, Blake's Select frozen shrimp, teased out in vibrant blue and coral accents. "Morning, Seraphina," called out Javier, her senior brand manager, adjusting his tie, which featured a subtle shrimp print pattern. The preliminary social data from last week's Coastal Cuisine rollout is up 18% in organic reach. "Nice work," she replied with a genuine smile. Sprinting her fingers through the data on her tablet, she offered quick pointers. Tighten audience brackets in the 25 to 34 female demo. Expand TikTok creative to include behind-the-scenes fishing footage and add a localized Miami-flavored hashtag to bolster community engagement. The team scribbled notes as she walked the room, invigorating them with decisive choices. By 10:15, she was dialing into Tokyo, her calm, confident voice translating marketing metrics across time zones. As she fielded questions about brand consistency and Japanese language adaptations, she balanced caffeine sips with fluid precision. Yet even remotely, she stayed 7 minutes ahead of schedule, a testament to the early morning yoga she'd been squeezing in since 5:30 a.m. Then came 11:20, the moment she braced for. The private meeting with her father. Malcolm Blake, founder and CEO of Ocean Crest Exports, was a titan in the seafood logistics industry, his ruthless negotiation tactics and expansive trade routes having turned a small family operation into a global powerhouse. Now in his early 60s, his steel-gray hair and hawkish stare still commanded boardrooms. Rumor had it he'd once closed a shipment fee dispute over a handshake and a single phrase, "Either you align with Blake pricing, or you walk." Seraphina stepped out of the war room. A tight knot formed in her stomach as she approached the glass-walled executive suite on the 22nd floor. The suite overlooked a panorama of glittering yachts and freight liners. She knocked lightly and entered on his invitation. "Good morning, Papa," she began, voice steady but respectful. "Good morning, Seraphina," he replied, eyes narrowing briefly before they softened. He gestured to the sleek conference table scattered with documents and projections. "Take a seat." She sat opposite him. He folded his hands, steepling his fingers. "Your team tells me the North Atlantic campaign is performing well, but the board is concerned about overinvestment in digital channels. They want more proven media, print ads in food and wine, trade show sponsorships, that sort of thing." Seraphina nodded. "I understand their caution, but digital is where the growth is. Our data shows a 28% year-over-year increase in online seafood purchases among millennials and Gen Z. If we shift budget back to print, we miss out on capturing that market." He studied her, expression unreadable. "Data is nice, but numbers don't buy ships. Traditional channels still secure bulk buyers through industry contacts. You know how reluctant legacy vendors can be to click order now in an app." She leaned forward. "I'm recommending a hybrid approach. Maintain select high-profile print placements, but reallocate 15% of that budget to targeted social campaigns. We can set clear, incremental KPIs to prove ROI over 3 months. If it underperforms, we pivot back." He tapped a pen on the table. "Your arguments are sound. Make it happen, impress me." He paused. "I also need your take on something more personal." Her heart rate skipped. "Of course." He slid a black and white photograph across the table, a smiling Seraphina at age 7, holding up a trophy from her first essay contest at a public library. Next to that, a more recent family portrait, Seraphina, her mother Elaine, deceased, and Malcolm on a yacht's deck. "Your mother would be proud," he said softly. "But money and business, those aren't everything. When will you settle down? I worry the company legacy won't continue." Seraphina's throat tightened. This conversation was routine. Whenever she hit a career milestone, he'd pivot to personal life. "Papa, I appreciate your concern. I'm focused on building my team, on expanding Ocean Crest's reach." I haven't had time to think about. I've met someone, she blurted, surprising herself. His name is Thatcher Hayes. He's different. He cares about salvage, about being on call 24/7. He doesn't run spreadsheets, but he solves real problems, gets people unstuck. She held his gaze, braced for impact. Malcolm leaned back. A mobile mechanic? That's unexpected. He paused, then smiled wryly. Perhaps different is what you need. Just don't lose yourself chasing someone else's waves. She nodded, tension easing. Thank you, Papa. He signaled the end of the meeting. Carry on with your campaigns. And Seraphina, drive safe. She rose, collected her documents, and left the suite. In the hallway, she exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she'd held. The weight of two worlds, corporate success and familial expectation, sat on her shoulders, but for the first time, she felt capable of balancing them. Back in the marketing war room at noon, Seraphina entered with renewed determination. Javier and the team awaited her next directive. Budgets needed realignment, creative teams needed briefs, the Tokyo office required updated asset files. With laser focus, she reorganized priorities. Meeting notes became action items, to-do lists became timeline checkpoints, each delegate assigned to specific deliverables. By 1:30 p.m., she had knocked out 3 tasks, approved creative mock-ups for the Canadian market, greenlit the revised social media calendar, and signed off on the budget reallocation. The war room buzzed with energy, motivated by her clear vision and drive. Still, amid all the hustle, she found a quiet moment to open her phone. There was a message from Thatcher. Good luck this afternoon. Remember to push your digital advantage. Papa said okay? Her lips curved into a smile. He had remembered. She tapped back.
He did.
Thanks for being in my corner. Later that day, as she walked out to her car, Seraphina paused to take in Miami's skyline from the garage roof. The yachts sparkled in the setting sun, and the bay glowed rose gold. In that moment, she felt anchored by 2 things: the company she'd helped build, and the unexpected new friendship stirring her heart. She lifted her phone, drafted a quick note to Thatcher. Dinner tonight? I'll pick the place, somewhere halfway between chaos and calm. And hit send, ready to navigate both the high tides of the seafood export industry and the gentle swell of something new. The major campaigns she led would ripple across continents, but this connection, simple coffee to engine rescue, felt like a current that could carry her anywhere. Late afternoon light filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Ocean Crest's headquarters, casting long, golden beams across the polished oak floors.
Seraphina Blake at a hair desk.
Eyes scanning the latest engagement metrics on her laptop. The hybrid campaign was gaining traction, but before she could dive into the next spreadsheet, her phone buzzed in her pocket. Seraphina, lunch? She smiled at the sender. Caspin Knight, her oldest friend. They had grown up together in Coconut Grove, swam in the same neighborhood canals, and built cardboard forts in mangrove trees. He'd been her confidant through high school trials, yet since his return from London and her whirlwind promotions, they'd drifted, conversations reduced to polite texts and the occasional like on social media posts. Her heart fluttered. Inviting him into her day felt like rediscovering a long-lost anchor. 30 minutes later, Seraphina made her way to Harbor View Terrace, a cafe perched on pilings over Biscayne Bay. The salt air mingled with the scent of grilled lobster rolls and iced jasmine tea. She spotted Caspin before he saw her. Tall, broad-shouldered in a crisp chambray shirt, dark hair just grazing his collar. He stood by the railing, gazing at the water as though searching for a familiar memory. Caspin, she called, waving. He turned, eyes lighting up with warmth and surprise. Seraphina Blake, he said, stepping forward for a hug she nearly missed, her professional armor slipping away in that embrace. You're killing it these days. The tower looks good on you. Thanks, she laughed. And you've turned into quite the cinephile CEO. How's night engineering? He gestured to the table. 2 lobster rolls, a kale and quinoa salad, and iced jasmine teas already waiting. Better than surviving? Thanks. The new robotics line ships in 2 weeks. He sat, his gaze dropping to meet hers.
But tell me about you.
I read the headline. Youngest marketing director to lead transatlantic launch. You're famous. She lifted her tea in mock salute. Famous for making shrimp Instagrammable. She paused, studying his face. The small nick on his eyebrow from their teenage treehouse accident, the dimple that appeared when he smiled. I've missed this, she said softly. Our conversations used to feel like life rafts. He nodded. Me too. After London, I dove headfirst into APIs and merger talks. I forgot the taste of fresh mango from your grandmother's backyard. He took a slow bite of salad, savoring it. But I'm back, and I want to make up for lost time. They fell into easy rhythm, swapping stories as though no years had passed. She recounted her Tybee Island breakdown and the mobile mechanic who saved her evening. He laughed and said he'd read her texts aloud to his team as inspiration. In return, he described his time at Imperial College's robotics lab, working on AI-driven prosthetics. Remember how we built that go-kart with Dad's old lawnmower engine? He said, eyes twinkling. I still can't believe it ran. Seraphina chuckled. Until it careened through Mrs. Martinez's hedges. She winced. Sorry I blamed you for launching us into her begonias. He shrugged. Worth it. They reminisced about sandcastle competitions at Crandon Park, late-night pizza slices on the docks, and the book exchange tradition he'd started. Every birthday, one hardcover treasure passed between them. When she'd gone to college, he'd sent her a leather-bound edition of Hemingway's Islands in the Stream, her favorite novel from high school, and she still kept it on her nightstand. Caspian paused, reaching into his messenger bag. He withdrew a small package wrapped in burgundy paper. Happy unbirthday, he said with a grin. Seraphina raised an eyebrow.
I busted.
With you, every ordinary day felt like a celebration, he replied, handing it over. She untied the ribbon. Inside lay a first edition of Elizabeth Bishop's North and South, inscribed, To Seraphina, for the one who taught me to swim against the tide.
C.K.
Tears pricked her eyes. I thank you. She closed the book gently, feeling its weight, a testament to his thoughtfulness. Yet beneath the laughter and nostalgia, an unspoken tension lingered. Seraphina noticed how Caspian's brow furrowed whenever she mentioned Thatcher Hayes. He asked subtle questions. How serious is this mechanic of yours? Does he share your long-term goals? What does he think about? And each time, she deflected. Her father's cautious blessing, the company's digital direction, the thrill of balancing boardroom demands with midnight engine rescues. It was a complex world. With Thatcher, she discovered unexpected comfort. With Caspian, a soulful understanding. After a pause, she said, I'm exploring what feels right for my life and the company. He leaned forward, concern softening his eyes. Just promise me you'll think beyond convenience. You deserve someone who fits you as seamlessly as you fit Oceancrest. She managed a small smile. You've always known me better than I know myself. They decided to walk along the bay's edge after lunch. The breeze played in their hair as they moved beneath a canopy of palm fronds and tidal pew. A pod of pelicans skimmed the water, their silhouettes drifting like ancient sentinels. Seraphina spoke of late-night video calls with international distributors, her voice vibrant when describing marketing breakthroughs. Caspian countered with tales of late-night coding marathons, his fingers tracing imaginary lines of code. Business is full of variables, he said. But when I think of stability, I think of something I can count on, like your unwavering focus on excellence. She glanced at him. And I think of what you build, structures, algorithms, trust. You never cut corners. He smiled, catching her gaze, and for a moment, the world felt suspended between two heartbeats, hers, poised on discovery, his, anchored in steadfastness. A warm breeze carried the briny scent of the sea. Seraphina closed her eyes, leaning her head slightly toward him, listening to the silent rhythm between them, the echo of shared youth merging with adult aspirations. Neither spoke for a few steps, giving weight to the unspoken bond. Then Seraphina turned, her face alight with clarity. "Thank you for today," she said quietly, "for reminding me who I was and who I could still be." Caspian nodded, offering his arm. She slipped her hand through, and they continued along the boardwalk, two silhouettes against a blazing sky, bridging the gap between childhood's harbor and the uncharted waters ahead. In that moment, surrounded by salt air, shifting tides, and the ghost of all they once were, Seraphina understood something profound. Love and friendship, like the ocean, had currents both deep and unpredictable. The comfort of what was familiar could guide her choices, even as the promise of something new beckoned beyond the horizon. And as the sun dipped lower, painting Miami's skyline in molten gold, she felt ready to chart the course of her own heart, buoyed by a friendship that refused to sink. By mid-July, Ocean Crest exports had never been busier and never more vulnerable. Seraphina Blake arrived at the shipping operations center in downtown Miami to the low hum of fluorescent lights and the sporadic ring of telephones. For massive screens dominated one wall, each streaming a live dashboard of vessel positions, shipment statuses, and real-time alerts. She sipped her iced cold brew and scanned the data. 9 vessels en route to European ports, 15 trucks scheduled for cross-country freight, and 2 chartered freighters loaded with premium Blakes, select shrimp bound for Tokyo. Everything looked green, except for the alert blinking in fiery yellow at the center of the third screen. Route 52 maintenance overdue, vehicle downtime risk high. Route 52 was the coastal highway linking Miami to West Palm Beach, where Ocean Crest kept its inland logistics hub. 10 days ago, Seraphina had signed off on a pilot program to expedite social media ad spend. The team had reallocated funds from print budgets to digital initiatives, trusting Thatcher Hayes's innovative maintenance schedule for their fleet. Now her phone buzzed, a late-night bulletin from fleet manager Marcus Chen.
Seraphina urgent.
6 trucks reported engine stalls this morning. 2 abandoned on the shoulder for limping at reduced speed. Cleanup crew and parts trucking delayed due to road closures. Up to 48-hour delays on critical cargo. Please advise. Her chest tightened. This was precisely the kind of nightmare she'd feared. Logistics hiccup threatening $1 million shipment. She tapped a reply. On my way. Alert Cascade Response Team. Moments later, her core team assembled in Crisis War Room B. Javier on digital channels, Marcus on fleet operations, Priya on client relations, and Marco on finance. Caspian Knight and Thatcher Hayes joined remotely via secure video link. Thatcher from his mobile shop in Coconut Grove. Caspian from Knight Engineering's command center in Coral Gables. Status. Seraphina demanded, voice clipped but controlled. Marcus pressed a few keys. A map appeared, marking 6 stalled vehicles between mile markers 112 and 119. 2 had coolant leaks, 3 had tripped circuit breakers in the ignition systems, 1 had a shredded timing belt. Heavy rain last night caused low-lying roads to flood. Trucks through that corridor weren't cleared in time. Our predictive maintenance flagged overdue checks, but execution relied on a decentralized vendor network. It collapsed under seasonal demand. Priya shared her screen, email threads from irate distributors in Atlanta and Chicago. They're threatening to shift future contracts if delivery windows slip. Legal department warns potential penalties up to $200,000 per late shipment. Marco grimaced at the spreadsheet. If we miss Tokyo's high season orders, penalties plus lost future business could top $1.5 million. Our profit model assumes 98% on-time delivery. The room held its breath. Seraphina exhaled slowly. Okay, we need a 2-pronged approach. Immediate relief for stranded trucks and a robust solution for long-term reliability. She turned to Caspian. Caspian, your assessment. Caspian's image flickered to full screen. He was leaning forward, arms crossed on the desk. Behind him, shelves of engineering prototypes and gear models. Seraphina, I ran a systems audit last quarter alongside fleet ops. The core issue is reliance on manual maintenance scheduling. You need an integrated telematics-driven predictive platform. Real-time sensor data, engine temperature, vibration analysis, fluid levels, pushed to a central dashboard with AI-driven alerts. That way, we preempt failures before trucks leave the hub. Thatcher popped up next to him, wiping a smear of grease from his temple. I've been patching some of those stalls today. If we had hardware interfaces built into each vehicle's ECU, I could react faster, remotely isolate faulty modules, and reset systems on the fly. Right now, every breakdown needs a mobile mechanic ride out. It's inefficient. Seraphina scribbled notes. So, dual approach. Install telematics in our entire fleet and onboard a dedicated remote integration team to monitor and execute alerts. Marcus, feasibility. Marcus leaned back. We'd need to retrofit 50 trucks initially, hardware kits, wiring harnesses, cloud connectivity. Vendor proposals range from $2,000 to $3,500 per unit. Installation could run 6 weeks for the full fleet, but we can phase it, 20 trucks in the next 10 days, 30 in the following month.
Priya interjected, client need assurance.
Can we guarantee zero unplanned downtime for the pilot 20 trucks? Also, could we offer them premium access to track shipments in real time? Seraphina nodded.
Yes.
We'll frame it as an exclusive Ocean Crest reliability promise. Members of this pilot program get direct access to our new telematics portal and 24/7 hotline hosted by Thatcher. She looked to him. He smiled wryly. I'll staff it for launch. But if we scale, we'll need at least 5 full-time remote techs. Caspin tapped his desk. Night engineering can supply the platform as a service. We'll integrate quickly. I'll get you a working prototype within 5 days. Thatcher snorted. And I'll outfit the first 5 trucks next week. Rain or shine. Seraphina closed her notebook.
Good.
Now, temporary triage for the 6 stalled trucks. Assign mobile mechanics. Establish emergency towing. Marcus, dispatch every available unit. Javier, fire off client communications. Acknowledge the delay, but promise expedited deliveries via the pilot program. Priya, call top-tier accounts personally, offer rebates, and enhance tracking. Marco sat forward. I'll carve out contingency funds for rebates. We can cap the total spend at $150,000 without tanking Q3 projections. Seraphina took a moment, meeting every eye. Let's make it happen. We turn crises into opportunities, build long-term trust. She toggled off the video feed, leaving the team to mobilize. Over the next 48 hours, Ocean Crest's logistics wing turned into a well-oiled crisis machine. Mobile mechanics, including an exhausted but determined Thatcher Hayes, swooped in as soon as each truck stalled. Marked emergency support, they arrived in repurposed service vans stocked with diagnostic tablets and emergency parts. They swapped out seized distributor caps, reset ECU modules, patched coolant leaks, and, in one particularly dramatic rescue, airlifted a damaged timing belt via crane from a remote swamp crossing. Simultaneously, Night Engineering's prototype telematics units were delivered to Dock 7 in Miami. Engineers, in reflective vests and safety glasses, worked 12-hour shifts to install Ocean Connect modules, sensors trimmed into existing wiring looms, diagnostic ports tapping into CAN bus networks, satellite uplinks configured. Within 72 hours, 5 trucks were broadcasting live telemetry, engine temp, oil pressure, GPS position, and predictive maintenance alerts flashing on Seraphina's new dashboard. She hovered over that dashboard nearly all afternoon of the 3rd day. Each data point lit up in pleasing green. Engine health, 98%. Next service, 1,200 miles. GPS locked, active. She watched a mobile mechanic rear out in real time to intercept a truck deviating slightly from Route 195 after a GPS glitch. The sheer speed of response, minutes rather than hours, felt like a revelation. In parallel, the client relations team executed Priya's plan. They sent personalized updates to key partners. Your shipment on July 17th is now equipped with Ocean Crest reliability tracking. You may monitor your cargo's precise location, engine health metrics, and scheduled maintenance breaks in real time. We apologize for recent delays and are offering a 10% freight rebate as part of our reliability promise. Phones in the war room pinged one after another. Atlanta distributor. Impressive. This is the kind of innovation we've wanted. Chicago logistics partner. We'll enroll our entire fleet in Q1 2025. Tokyo Harbor Services. Looking forward to the advanced tracking interface. Send beta credentials. By the end of day 4, just under 48 hours after the crisis began, all 6 stalled trucks were back in service, the 2 chartered freighters had sailed on schedule, and the Tokyo containers were processed without penalty. The pilot telematics program had already flagged a minor alternator issue on one truck at 3:15 a.m., and a remote reset prevented what would have been another roadside stall. On a Friday morning, exactly 1 week after the initial failures, Seraphina convened a press-style meeting in the Ocean Crest Auditorium. Senior executives, press liaisons, and key clients gathered. Cameras lined the back wall, capturing her every move. The banner read, Ocean Crest Exports, charting a new course in reliability. Standing at the podium, Seraphina looked out on the sea of faces. Her heart steady. She began. Last week, our logistics corridor experienced significant setbacks due to unforeseen maintenance issues and severe weather conditions. I want to apologize personally to any partners affected. However, I'm proud to announce that in record time, we not only restored service, but also launched Ocean Connect, our proprietary telematics and predictive maintenance platform, powered by Knight Engineering and supported by our mobile rapid response team. This initiative transforms how we deliver real-time tracking, instant diagnostics, and proactive service interventions. She clicked a remote control. Behind her, a slide showed a sleek mobile dashboard, mapping live data from 5 pilot program vehicles. The audience murmured approval as she elaborated. Real-time visibility. Clients can track cargo health metrics. Predictive alerts. AI models anticipate component wear with 95% accuracy. Mobile response. A dedicated team, led by seasoned professionals like Thatcher Hayes, is available 24/7. Reliability promise. Next month rebate credits for on-time performance above 99%. Applause rippled through the room. Some polite, some enthusiastic. She recognized the glint of renewed confidence in her father's eyes, the approving nod from Caspian in the front row, and the whispered congratulations from key clients. Later, over celebratory hors d'oeuvres of shrimp ceviche and champagne, Marcus teased, I thought we were doomed, but you turned it into the biggest marketing story of the year. Seraphina clinked glasses with Caspian. Crisis makes opportunity, right? He smiled. And you seized it brilliantly. Thatcher, in the corner, beamed as someone handed him an Ocean Crest lapel pin. He pinned it proudly to his mechanic's vest. 2 weeks later, Seraphina sat back in her office, overlooking the freight yard. The initial pilot of 20 trucks was scheduled for full rollout. The analytics team projected a 35% reduction in unplanned downtime and a 22% uplift in client retention among participating accounts. Board members had greenlit the full telematics budget. She exhaled, hands interlaced behind her head. The crisis had tested every facet of her leadership, from split-second decisions to cross-functional coordination. It had rallied her team, validated her digital-first strategy, and strengthened client trust. More than anything, it had shown her that innovation often emerges from necessity, and that marrying technical expertise with human responsiveness can forge a nearly unbreakable chain. In her inbox lay a message from her father. Well done. Proud doesn't begin to cover it. Below it, a private text from Caspian. Dinner this Friday? I want to hear more about your next big idea. And from Thatcher. Great work, boss. Tell the war room I'm ready for phase 2 when you are. Seraphina allowed herself a small smile. The storm had nearly capsized them. And yet, here they stood, stronger and more unified. On her desk, the whiteboard listed Part 6, Decisions and Commitments. She rubbed her palms together, energized. The real journey was just beginning. She typed into her calendar. Friday, 7 p.m. Dinner with Caspian. Phase 2 planning with Thatcher. The future loomed large, but now she was ready to sail it with confidence, creativity, and the rare blend of friendship and professional mastery that had carried her through every high tide. The success of Ocean Connect had been celebrated with champagne and praise, but for Seraphina Blake, there was little time to bask in victory. Within a week, 3 new challenges demanded all her focus: a high-stakes acquisition offer, a rift between 2 of her closest allies, and a board-mandated leadership reorganization that threatened to undermine her authority. That Monday, before sunrise, Seraphina discovered an envelope from Seaview Capital Partners on her desk. The letter contained an irresistible proposal. Seaview would acquire Oceancrest's entire European division for $75 million, gaining 2 board seats and strategic oversight in return. Her pulse thundered as she envisioned the immediate windfall, enough capital to underwrite an ambitious Asia-Pacific expansion. But she also felt a pang of loss. The Lisbon hub had been her first major project, built from the ground up under her direction. Turning it over to an outside entity felt like surrendering a part of her own legacy. She called her father, CEO Malcolm Blake, who answered from his yacht on Biscayne Bay. "Seaview always admires our routes," he said, "but selling core assets jeopardizes our brand. Negotiate a joint venture instead, retain majority control, and secure half the capital." By mid-morning, Seraphina had convened an impromptu strategic response committee. Around the polished mahogany table sat CFO Marco Petrov, Global Logistics VP Marcus Chen, Brand Manager Javier Lopez, and via secure video link her 2 trusted advisors. Caspian Knight dialing in from his Coral Gables office, and Thatcher Hayes pushing in a fresh wrench from his Coconut Grove mobile shop. Financial models flashed on the screen. Immediate cash versus long-term recurring revenue. Marcus warned of regulatory upheavals post-Brexit. Javier emphasized the risk to client confidence. Caspian urged strategic resiliency. Control builds agility. Thatcher's gravelly voice cut in. "This is a breakdown moment. Don't abandon the engine mid-repair." After 2 hours, Seraphina brokered a compromise. Oceancrest would retain 70% ownership of its European division. Seaview would invest $50 million for a 30% stake and 2 non-executive board seats. This joint venture preserved operational control while unlocking the capital needed for future growth. Marco was tasked with drafting the agreement, Marcus with outlining integration logistics, Javier with crafting client communications. No sooner had the Seaview negotiations settled when her phone buzzed again. 2 texts, seconds apart. The first from Caspian. "Coral Harbor Yacht Club Gala. Saturday at 7. I'd be honored if you'd join me." The second from Thatcher. "Meet me Thursday at 6 p.m. at the shop for Phase 2 pilot installations." She stared at her reflection in the screen, uncertainty twisting her stomach. A black-tie evening of refined elegance with Caspian, her oldest friend, or a hands-on midnight workshop with Thatcher, the man who had reignited her passion for mechanical innovation? She typed brief replies agreeing to both, then set her jaw. She would find a way to honor each commitment. But another storm was brewing inside her own company. That afternoon, Malcolm Blake announced a leadership realignment. Priya Singh, head of client relations, would now report directly to him rather than through Seraphina's marketing hierarchy. The move, he explained, was intended to streamline urgent client escalations, yet it effectively cut Seraphina out of one of her most critical domains. In the glass-walled conference room overlooking the freight yard, Seraphina felt her authority slip like oil through her fingers. Later, after board members departed, she called Priya into her office. They sat across from each other at a sleek glass desk. "I want you to succeed," Seraphina said, voice steady though her chest tightened. "Let's draft a client relations charter clarifying your direct authority on escalations while preserving my oversight on brand-aligned communications." Over an hour, they nailed down parameters. Priya could approve rebates up to $50,000 and issue urgent updates without prior sign-off. Seraphina would maintain final approval on all marketing collateral and global messaging. As Priya left with a signed copy, The tension eased, but Seraphina understood that her circle of influence had narrowed. By Wednesday evening, the weight of mergers, personal appointments, and internal restructuring pressed on her. She forced herself to a sunset yoga class on the rooftop terrace, sunlight fading over the bay as she centered her breath. She reviewed her calendar on her phone and realized the choice between gala and garage must be made. She would attend Thatcher's workshop Thursday, Caspian's gala Saturday.
Thursday night.
She drove to Hayes' mobile shop wearing jeans and a Breton striped sweater. Oil dripped from the eaves as she stepped beneath the harsh LED lights into a cavern of engines. Thatcher greeted her with a warm grin and handed her a heavy torque wrench. They spent 3 hours side by side retrofitting a Mercedes van with electric assist hydraulic pumps and an AI diagnostic module. Sparks flew each time she misaligned a connector, and Thatcher coached her patiently. When she finally tightened the last bolt, his gaze held hers. "I'm glad you came," he said quietly. She wiped grease from her cheek and nodded. "This feels right." He placed a gentle hand on hers. "Partnering with you, building this together, means everything." Her heart hammered. Yet in that greasy workshop, surrounded by wiring harnesses and hydraulic lines, she recognized where her ambition and passion intersected most clearly. The following evening, in stark contrast, she arrived at the Coral Harbor Yacht Club in an emerald green chiffon gown. Caspian stood on the teakwood dock, bow tie impeccable against the night sky. A quartet serenaded guests inside, and servers glided with trays of chilled oysters. Over courses of seared tuna and mango lime ceviche, Caspian spoke with quiet intensity. "I care for you deeply. Being with you at my side means everything to me." She met his gaze, warmth filling her chest. "You've always been my anchor," she admitted, "but I also need to follow where my passion leads." He nodded, eyes shadowed with understanding and pain. "I just want you happy." By dawn Friday, she boarded the catamaran to Punta Rasa with her father and board members in tow. Over coffee, she announced the Seaview joint venture terms and presented the signed client relations charter. Then, stepping aside, she spoke privately to Malcolm. "I've chosen my path. Professionally, I commit to this joint venture. Personally, my heart leads me to build with Thatcher." He studied her, pride softening his stern features. "Bold and true. That's why I trust you with this company." Returning to Miami that afternoon, Seraphina sent 2 final messages. To Caspian, "Thank you for everything. My heart must follow the workshop. I hope you understand." To Thatcher, "I'm all in. Let's change the world. Phase 3 starts now." Later, at the all-hands meeting, she addressed the entire staff without notes. "We've forged a strategic partnership to strengthen our European division, empowered client relations with clear authority, and aligned my personal commitment with our next innovation frontier, electric hybrid conversions and predictive maintenance. Together, we steer Ocean Crest toward a bold, sustainable future." Applause filled the room, Priya offering an encouraging nod, Marcus pumping his fist, even Malcolm allowing himself a small, proud smile. That night, Seraphina stood on her balcony, the city lights dancing across dark waters. The trials had tested her. High-stakes negotiations, personal loyalties, internal upheaval. But by making clear, courageous decisions, always true to her vision and her heart, she had forged a path forward. Lifting a glass of jasmine tea to the horizon, she felt at peace. The voyage ahead would demand all her leadership and passion, but she was ready to navigate it, beaconed by purpose and the promise of what she and Thatcher would build together. The ribbon lay cut, the engines hummed quietly in their bays, and the last of the toasts had rippled into echoes when Seraphina Blake finally allowed herself a moment to breathe. The Hayes Auto Atelier, gleaming under high-arc lights, stood as testament to every risk she'd taken and every partnership she'd forged. She stepped off the raised platform, heart still pounding from the opening ceremony, and wandered past the line of prototype service vans, each one a promise of cleaner, smarter maintenance. The crowd thinned as night deepened, leaving only scattered clusters of employees and a lone figure leaning against her father's vintage convertible. "Congratulations," Malcolm Blake said softly, stepping forward. His salt and pepper hair caught the glare of the bay lights. He offered her a glass of sparkling water. "You've turned every challenge into an opportunity." Seraphina took the glass and let the cool liquid soothe her. She thought back to that rain-soaked stretch of Route 52 when breakdowns threatened her career, to Caspian's patient faith, to Thatcher's steady hands guiding her through wiring harnesses and greased pistons. "I couldn't have done it without your guidance," she admitted. "And theirs." She nodded toward the workshop doors where Thatcher had slipped inside, still fielding late calls. Malcolm's gaze was proud but steady. "You made your own path." A horn from the atelier's fleet horned deep bass notes, announcing final departures. Seraphina closed her eyes and inhaled salt air. Somewhere in the distance, a barge's floodlights tracked the city's shadow on water. The atelier, once a dream sketched on napkins, now stood at the edge of infinite possibility.
Inside.
Thatcher emerged, wiping his hands on a rag. He offered an easy smile, though fatigue lined his eyes. "Ready for a midnight ride?" he asked. She grinned, wiping oil from her own fingers. "Always." He guided her to a prototype van with a solar-tinted roof and silent electric motors. "Let's test the new self-diagnostics," he said, sliding behind the wheel. The van purred to life with no roar. Only a faint whir of regenerating battery pumps. Seraphina climbed in beside him, buckling her seatbelt. As they coasted down the darkened quay, instruments flickered on the dashboard. Real-time engine health, battery charge, predictive failure alerts already scouring component data. A soft chime indicated no immediate faults, but a menu prompt read, "Next maintenance alert in 200 miles. All systems normal." She reached across to tap the screen. "It's perfect," she whispered, struck by how far she'd come, from crisis to innovation in a few short weeks. Thatcher glanced at her, a half-smile tugging at his lips. "We built it together." They rolled into the city, navigating empty streets beneath neon street signs. The world felt still, as though holding its breath for tomorrow's breakthroughs. Seraphina realized she'd never been more alive than in this moment, wheels spinning lightly beneath her and a clear path ahead. The next morning arrived not with a storm, but with the gentle rise of sun over Biscayne Bay. Seraphina stood at her office window, watching cargo ships line up at the port, their lights blinking in choreographed patterns. She dressed quickly in a tailored suit jacket that bore a subtle atelier badge on its lapel. Today marked her official transition. She would sign the paperwork retrofitting her title from Director of Marketing to Chief Innovation Officer, overseeing both atelier operations and all future R&D ventures. In the boardroom, the same windows framed a panorama of cranes and container stacks. Malcolm, Marcus, Priya, Javier, Marco, Caspian, and even Thatcher gathered around her new desk. Malcolm stepped forward with a leather folio. "Seraphina," he said, sliding documents across. "Your new charter." She nodded and carefully read her mandate. Global innovation strategy, pilot deployments, cross-functional collaboration, and mentoring the next wave of engineers and marketers. With a deliberate flourish, she affixed her signature and passed the folio to Priya for her countersignature. A polished wooden plaque bearing her new title was then mounted beside her door. Caspian rose to offer a quiet toast of gingermint tea from a silver pitcher. "To the next frontier," he said. "May it be as bold as your vision." Thatcher tucked his wrench into a hip pocket and added, "And may every breakdown become a breakthrough." They toasted, laughter rippling beneath the high ceilings. Contracts were signed, alliances affirmed, and old titles shed like spent batteries. That afternoon, she hosted the inaugural Ocean Crest Innovation Symposium in the atelier's main bay. Attendees ranged from local startup founders to international logistics partners. Tables displayed coral reef monitoring drones, autonomous hull inspection submersibles, remote diagnostic kiosks, and Caspian's AI-driven water quality sensors. Thatcher unveiled a fully electric rapid response truck, its regenerative braking system kicking in with a soft whisper. Seraphina introduced each exhibit, weaving the tagline into her keynote, "From crisis to catalyst. Engineering tomorrow." As applause filled the cavernous space, she locked eyes with both Caspian and Thatcher. Each gave a subtle nod, endorsements of her leadership and of the choices that had led her here. Later, as dusk fell, she walked past the prototypes now basking in soft lamplight. She paused at a workbench where her original marketing award sat beside a greasy torque wrench and a framed postcard of Tybee Island's lonesome lighthouse. Each artifact told a story of transformation, corporate calculations, childhood companions, stormy breakdowns, and midnight electric conversions. She placed a hand on the desk. "Thank you," she whispered to the ghosts of every past failure and every hand that helped her up. The atelier's door swung open behind her, beckoning toward all the miles yet to cover. That evening, she slipped away to her balcony one last time. The skyline glinted like scattered jewels, the ocean breathed beneath city lights. She sent a final text, not to Seaview, not to Priya, but to herself. "Remember this. Every ending is a chance for a new map. Keep driving." With that, she turned toward the atelier's glow across the water, ready to navigate uncharted roads with open hands and a steadfast heart. The chapter had closed, but the next was already writing itself in engines revving and screens lighting up. Seraphina Blake, Chief Innovation Officer, stepped forward into a future she would invent one breakthrough at a time. And that brings us to the end of today's story on TrueStory Vibes. Don't forget to leave a comment with a quote or moment that touched you the most. Your words give our team the motivation to keep creating more heartfelt stories. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again soon.